here, and welcome back to my Sonic OC series. I hope your day is going well and that you're taking care of yourself. Stay hydrated, take your meds, and let's get to the video. It's finally time to talk about my third original OC for Sonic the Hedgehog. Let me preface this video essay in saying this OC is probably the worst I've covered so far. He's the most uninspired, unoriginal, and bland character in my repertoire. Bruh. And that's saying a lot, considering how many characters I've created over the years. Now, allow me to introduce to you none other than Flare the Hedgehog. Yippee! Just looking at this guy's original look makes me cringe beyond belief. No joke. He's literally just orange Sonic with a little bit of red thrown in. And before I went with the main body being orange, he was just red Sonic, which was such an eye strain, which I can only assume is why I ended up swapping the two colors around. As you'll probably notice throughout this video, I may reuse pictures because I never drew him. I honestly would forget to draw him into group pictures of Shackles and Trinket because that's how boring he was in the beginning. Between his personality and abilities, Flare was just never a memorable character to me, and I feel so bad about that since he's much more interesting now. I can't believe it took me nearly 15 years to update and change so much about him because he deserved so much more than to be Orange Sonic. Like, I legitimately can't remember anything about his personality, or if he even had one. I honestly think he only existed to be Trinket's big brother, and he didn't even do well as that, because I would forget about him and focus only on Shackles. Which, in my defense, Shackles is my baby girl, so he will always take priority over other characters. But anyway, what I can recall about Flare was him being kind, a little shy, and fiercely protective of Trinket. Although that never really came up in any of her stories for some reason. I think he also had a bit of a complex when it came to Sonic and Shadow, because his power is also speed, but he wasn't nearly as fast as they were. Which, I don't think anyone could match them anyways, so that wasn't too awful. He and Trinket were meant to be biological siblings, which quickly changed to them being orphans that built a familial bond before aging out of the system. And he also originally had a crush on Amy, which got thrown out the window due to a friend shipping their OC with Amy. And I ended up shipping him with Sonia because I shipped Trinket with Manic, which is a little weird now that I mention it, since Flare is her brother and Manic and Sonia are twins. Let's not linger there for too long. Eventually, I did start to play around with the idea of Flare being queer and harboring a crush on Sonic, which I actually ended up writing a fan fiction for. Emotional damage! To talk about this. Oh my gosh. In this fan fiction, Sonic was like a complete D-bag towards Flare for no reason. And I think it was because I was like heavily influenced by the Archie comics, because Sonic's a bit more of a jerk in those. I remember clearly where this fanfiction was supposed to go, even though I only wrote 3 chapters. It was gonna be Sonic taking advantage of Flare's crush / confusion, and then Shackles stepping in to knock some sense into Sonic, and then the two just being like friends. Like it was some weird manhwa plot. Reading back over this picture of this video made me visibly cringe and want to die, if that says anything about how bad it is. When I decided to sit down and revamp the trio a few years back, Flare got a much needed upgrade in design, although he still pretty much is just Orange Sonic at this point. which hammers in what I said earlier about him being so uninspired. And then I finally sat down and did like a second round of revamping and redesigning. And that's where I like settled on changing him completely. And this is like where I started to change more about him. Yippee! I did stick with him being gay, although I didn't focus any of my art on him, so there wasn't any kind of like ships happening. Now, his name is Luster. And not only is he gay, but he's also transgender. Luster and Trinket are still adopted siblings, like through actual adoption as children. He adores his sister and is actually her caretaker. He also is much more confident in his abilities and shares an ability with Trinket in being able to create like this shield bubble to use whenever fighting. Luster is still going through a bit of reworking now because I just want to give him the respect he deserves. Yippee! But I did go through a phase of still shipping him with Sonya, who is also trans, and Scourge.
I'm in danger!
He doesn't really vibe with Sonic as a person, thinking he's too haughty and reckless and self-centered at times, so they don't really mesh well together. That ship is no longer sailing. And in the end, I'm really happy with how Luster's changed over the years. I look forward to where he ends up when I'm finally finished with his direction, which is still kind of like in the air, especially since I'm still like reworking Trinket, so the two of them need to have a little more like backstory built to them, but this is what he's like now. So, what do I cover next? I really do have an almost endless catalog of Sonic OCs I can talk about, and even more from other series as well. I'll post up a new poll to see what you guys think, and we'll go from there. So make sure to check out my community tab to get in on the voting. We'll have a few different options. There's a couple of characters from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that I would like to talk about. I also have an Undertale character that I think would be kind of interesting to go over because that one's got a lot of story and build up to, but I still adore him. And then there's also the idea that I toyed around with where I could actually make a video covering a lot of my random characters. I have this really bad habit.
2 hours later.
Like, it's a really bad habit, guys. I'll watch something, or I'll start playing a game, or I'll just really get into something for a short period of time, and I decide to create a character for it. Usually I'll make a design, come up with a name, some backstory, and have like some maladaptive daydreams about them in whatever like content they're from.
Bruh.
But then I never do anything else with them. It's mostly just like a one-off character design with a little bit of story, and then I never touch them again. I have so many characters like this. I think one of my favorite ones to bring up, actually there's two. It's so bad to think about. I actually have a legitimate, like an actual OC that I created for Shrek. And nobody believes me. Nobody believes me until I show them her. Like, she's not a bad character or anything, but I unironically have a Shrek OC. And then the other one I like to think about is from an extremely, and I cannot be, like, I cannot stress this enough. There was a cartoon that was released whenever I was really young, and this was back whenever CGI was still, like, being learned about, so there weren't a lot of, like, television shows, like, using CGI, and it's one of the, like, original, like, 5 that were on television at the time. So you had, like, Sorry, I can't keep my cool. It's so bad to talk about this. Butt ugly Martians.
Huh?
I actually have an OC that I created for butt ugly Martians. Oh my gosh. And I don't even think that, like, I didn't put any thought into her. I just wanted to make so that'll be one of the options if you're interested in, like, seeing and hearing about these extremely random characters that I've made for obscure things over the years. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you look forward to the next one that I decide to put out. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and I hope you have a beautiful day